Good evening, everyone. Today, there's a few things I want to cover. We'll go through a little bit on the market updates. And then in terms of today's sharing, right, if you have friends that are wanting to learn about investing and they don't know where to start, maybe you can share with them this link on the YouTube link, right? So share this with them. This is free for everyone to join in for the first segment. So WealthPulse is what we do every single Tuesday. So my name is Jia Xuan. I'm one of the community managers and one of the sharers today. Apart from me, I have Eric, who will be taking turns to share about our insights as well as updating everyone about the markets. And then for the second segment that's where we have a closed door community session. So if you're interested, just scroll down to look at the description box below and you can click onto the WealthPulse link to claim your 1 month complimentary access to WealthPulse. I think the market has been going up already, right? Let me just quickly share a poll inside our Zoom to just have a sensing of things. How is everyone feeling right now? Okay, so just want to do some sanity or insanity check with our community members, see how they are doing so far. And yeah, that's why we do it every single Tuesday, right? To monitor the market together, to hear about some news that you might have missed out or some companies that you are interested in, we will also cover them, right? So if you're in Zoom, help me to do the poll. And by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to type inside. And if there's time, we'll address it in this session. If not, I will take the question and then we'll do it update on that either via our social media platforms or our community chat. If you are tuning in on YouTube, do me a favor by liking this video first. Yeah, so just give me a thumbs up. Let's see. Most of the people are feeling that the market is actually quite greedy right now. Yeah, in fact, that is very true. Okay, I can't tell you how mixed of a feeling I am right now, right? Because I did some actions in my portfolio when the dip happened, right? So I purchased some options, right? I also did some sell call to like rebalance the portfolio a little bit. But more importantly, I think most of the people in our community actually participated and bought some shares. So when the market is down, that's where we would like to practice this thing that Warren Buffett likes to mention, right? Which is when people are fearful, we should be greedy, right? That's why we stay in this community, and that's why we like to check in with everyone now and then, especially on a Tuesday evening like this. So just want to recap on all the things that we've been covering since 2025. In fact, from the start of the year itself, we have CES 2025 by Nvidia, and following that, I think last week or two, we covered a little bit on Nvidia as well. Again, right, on their Computex 2025. Yeah, so last week, in fact, Eric was talking a bit about updates on the tariff side. He talked about some of the quantum stuff, and if it's too in depth for you, don't worry. We will slowly digest this kind of information and break it down for you. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, as you can see from now until mid of June right now, we have covered so many topics, and that's why staying track and coming in every single week kinds of give you new insights as well. I just want to say congrats to everyone who have participated. And yes, so this is one of the things that we are doing, and this tool is really free for everyone to use. So what is this tool, right? Before I go into the market updates, right? This thing is called Buddy, right? So you have heard about a lot of AI companies or a lot of companies dealing with AI talking about, oh, we have AI agents here, we have AI agents there. But do you really start to use all these agents, right? So for us, we also created an agent, and it's called GoodWhale Buddy, right? Let me just zoom in for you in case you want to take a snapshot of the QR code. But let me run through what GoodWhale Buddy is about if you have not heard me share this before. Okay, so GoodWhale Buddy is your personalized AI assistant that helps you with your finances. How great is that, right? So you don't need to hire somebody, you don't need to ask your spouse or your partner, or you don't have to do much stuff on your own, right? Previously, I think one of the key action that I have to do every single month is to take down, the bank will of course remind me that I need to pay my credit card bills. So every time I will have to check through the list and see whether there's any fraud cases, fraud payments, and then slowly find out what kind of payments I have been making, right? And it is tedious AF, right? It's very tedious. Why? Because the traditional ways of clocking your expenses, I'm not sure if you have experienced before, is to either use Excel or even the more old school one, you are using like a notepad to write down, right? But along the way, there are some people who have created like awesome money tracking apps that allows you to have a better visualizations But still, there's so many things to do, right? You have to key in your amount, the item, the category, the date, and more information if you want to. And it's just for one entry. Can you imagine you have to do 5 to 10 entries a single day? How much time are you wasting? And I'm pretty sure nobody likes to do it. Not even my wife. Yeah, that's why we as a team we realize that this is a problem, right? If people don't start to track their expenses, how much do we know we are saving? And if you don't know how much we are saving, how sure or how confident are we that we are not investing our rainy day funds? And that's going to be very risky for most people, right? So what GoodWhale Buddy here is to help you to clock your expenses. So you can either do it like what this video is doing here, right? Which is simply take a screenshot or take a snap of your receipt, and then GoodWhale Buddy can just clock it in for you. Look over here, right? The receipt is like $24. And just by taking, and Buddy will just process it and categorize it for you. And that's it. One entry is clocked. Okay, so it's very convenient. Right, yes. Yeah, thanks Kun Kun for updating me about my mic. I'm using the expensive mic now, so let's pray it doesn't go off power. Okay, but anyways, if let's say taking picture is not your kind of thing, and simplest way we have right now is that you just need to type in the things that you're spending on. So for example, value dollar, you spend $15.20, right? You just clock it in, and then it will also help you to categorize as well, right? They can even understand like the local context of what value dollar is, which in our sense is like a convenience store, right? Yeah, these are the simple or like the most down to earth AI agents that you can start using today to help you be better with finances, right? Yeah. So this is something that we have been doing, and this is free to use. There's no charging. We are not asking you to pay. In fact, we hope that we can use this tool to reach out to more people to make financial literacy more accessible to more people, right? Yeah. So if you have friends or other family members or even young kids, in fact, share this with them so that they can start tracking their expenses. A very important part of finance. Okay. So one little update is that last Friday, the US have rolled out their, at least released the job market situations. And right now, it seems like the unemployment rate is quite stable. And because of that particular news, Donald Trump, the president of US, was very hopeful, and he's trying to pressurize US Feds, Jerome Powell, in his team to, hey, even though we increase the tariff, all these situations, the unemployment rate is still maintaining very well. So I think it's time for the Feds to lower the interest rates so that my stocks can boom. I don't know. But basically, he's trying to push for the interest rates to be lowered. And this is a good and a bad thing for different kind of investors. If you are somebody who is eyeing on the interest rates for interest income, then this is a bad thing. And that is one of the companies that I'll be going through later on. But in general, as a stock investor or like equity investors, Trump pressing down on the Fed's right to lower the interest rate can be a good thing for us because patterns have shown that when the interest rate drops, the stock market kind of rise. So now it's a very interesting spot. And I think the next report that is coming out from the Feds is actually on the 18th. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's on the 18th of June. Right? So it's going to be interesting. But the likelihood of the Fed's going to maintain their stance is, I think, is relatively high because the whole situation with the tariffs thing is not stabilized, and with so many things going on. Last week, Eric was talking about how US and China were like giving different information about whether there's a meeting or not, or there's no meeting, right? So this kind of like question marks news that is popping out here and there is like making one question what is going on. And then of course there's so much developments. But today, I would like to focus our attention away from the tariff for a moment. For the past few weeks, we've been talking about tariffs. You see the news is also tariff. Right, so for once, or like once in a while, let's take a break from the tariff side of things. And then let's look into what is some of the things that's happening in past few days. In fact, yesterday or this morning. And that is actually your WWDC. I am also a Apple user. I am not an Apple investor, and later on I will share with you my take on things on how I feel about this whole WWDC 2025. So basically, if you don't know what this event is, it's a conference held by Apple to showcase their latest development over the past 1 year and how they would like to market to you how good Apple product is, right? So this is very similar to what Nvidia does, AMD does. Most company, when they do a conference, is basically to sell your product. This video, if I were to play the video right now, it's like what? Oops, it's 1 hour and 15 minutes. Let me just try to distill this down into the next 15 minutes to 20 minutes or so. including my take as an investor as well. Okay, at the start of this whole conference, they were sharing about how good the Apple Intelligence is right now, and this is the logo. In fact, I have seen this logo on my phone, but for some reason, it's not as inviting to ask me to start using them. So I still took my chance to go and find out how to use it. So later on, I'll share one of the actions I did. So you'll find out. Okay, but anyways, in the last WWDC, they opened up the cans of worms about Apple Intelligence and then how good it is, but then it was not as fantastic as ever. But in this year, is it good enough? Let's find out, okay? So there are some of the things that I feel is good, and some of the things I feel like is meh. So I will share some of those. And in fact, I'm just focusing a lot on the mobile as well as the Mac side of things, because firstly, I don't use Apple Vision. I don't use my Apple Watch failed on me. It just like scrolls by itself. But anyways, that's not important. I have iPad, but I don't use that a lot. Yeah, I'll focus mainly on the mobile side as well as the Mac side of things, right? The computer side of things. Okay, so this is one of the AI tool that is available, and I didn't really use it until this afternoon. Right, so basically, let me share with you what happened, okay? So this is a photo of us meeting up with our dear community member, Kev, right? I forgot to ask him whether this is okay or not. But anyways, this function is called photo cleanup. So this is how they actually, something like Canva, right? You can actually select it. Okay, you can select the area that you want to cancel out, right? And then it will just disappear, right? So I tried to do it on some of the more complex stuff. As you can see, it's not the most fantastic output, right? So I do again. Oh no, it's not doing very well, right? So this is one use case that didn't really work well. But this one, when it was like removing this particular cup, right, it was actually quite spot on. I can't really see lah. Yeah, so that is on number one. So number two is another photo that I tried to redo this photo cleanup again. Again, this photo was taken near my house, and then someone was playing a Chinese chess with a robot, right? So very interesting contraption, right? So this is the monitor and all. So I tried to remove the background by coloring this whole area, as you can see, and then guess what? It turns out to be it's bad. If you think it's bad, type in a 1 in the chat. This is the same experience I have with Canva when I'm trying to remove certain background. Sometimes it just doesn't work very well. Yeah, it's disappointing. But yeah, so this is my first or the first few experience I have with one of the Apple Intelligence. So not that fantastic. Maybe because this is the version that is not updated yet, right? So maybe that's why. Okay, so one of the things I found that was quite interesting was that Apple, they want to come up with a call screening, right? So with so many scams going on, right? Let's focus our attention on the left side, right? There's so many scam calls, and so what Apple decided to do is that, hey, before we even let the user know there is going to be a call, we are going to send a voice message to the caller and get them to tell us what's the reason for calling the owner of the Apple iPhone, right? And then from that particular short voicemail, right, they will transcribe and let the user know that, oh, this is the reason why this potential user called maybe Greg, he's maybe Greg because he said that he's Greg, right, is trying to send you a delivery. But this is to help you to like filter out against scams or callers, right? But can you imagine if I am the scammer right now? Although I'm not, just thinking from the scammer point of view, they just need to say the things that is linked to what the user or have the habit of doing. Then it's likely that the user will think that, oh, this is a legit thing. They will still pick up the call. For me, I think this function is not the best, right? Because if they're not using AI, that if they're using like real people to do the scams, scammers can still like bypass this call screening lah. But on the other hand, FYI, right, Singapore have our own like Scam Shield app, right? So this is basically how the Singapore government helps with the citizens to reduce the scam cases, right? So there's a lot of scams happening in Singapore as well. I nearly got scammed like once or twice, right? With someone impersonating me that, you know, I am this person. Yeah. So I think the usual one was that I opened a new shop and then I forgot I don't have enough money to pay off the deposit or some payments, and then I need you to transfer me some money. So this is some of the common ones nowadays. Yeah, what Scam Shield out there is that it's mainly helping Singapore numbers, because they identify some of these numbers that are associated with scammers. And with that database, it like filter out them if you download the app. So I'm not sure if Malaysians or other country when they use Scam Shield, how effective this is. But from what I know as a Singaporean living in Singapore, this is one of the core screening that we already have way before Apple came out with this. Ha! Apple. Okay. So yeah, so when I hear about this function, I think it was a disappointment. It was a disappointment for this function. But I guess this is for more other people. Oh, Malaysia got a who's call. Is it nice to use or is it easy to use? I would say easy. It's easy. Okay, so I guess it's like an app as well, right? That helps you to filter. Yeah, so this is one thing that they have on the scam alert stuff. But that's another thing that Eric also brought up this morning when he sent inside our WhatsApp group, right? Is that they are introducing a new feature or something new called the liquid glass. Liquid glass. So if you haven't watched the video yet, can those of you who haven't seen before tell me or make a guess? Just make a guess. What do you think this liquid glass is? Let me know. Nothing. Okay, we can't. You got watch the video, so cannot. Okay, but let's just take a quick look again on the video what this liquid glass is. Just fast forward.
Personality and defines their purpose. At Apple, we've always believed it's the deep integration of hardware and software that makes interacting with technology intuitive, beautiful, and a joy to use. iOS 7 introduced a simplified design built on distinct layers, smooth animations, and new colors. It redefined our design language for years to come. Now, with the powerful advances in our hardware, silicon, and graphics technologies, we have the opportunity to lay the foundation for the next chapter of our software. Today, we're excited to announce our broadest design update ever. Our goal is a beautiful new design that brings joy and delight to every user experience, one that's more personal and puts greater focus on your content, all while still feeling instantly familiar. And for the first time, we're introducing a universal design across our platforms. This unified design language creates a more harmonious experience as you move between products, while maintaining the qualities that make each unique. Inspired by the physicality and richness of visionOS, we challenged ourselves to make something purely digital feel natural and alive, from how it looks to how it feels as it dynamically responds to touch. To achieve this, we began by rethinking the fundamental elements that make up our software, and it starts with an entirely new expressive material we call liquid glass. With the optical qualities of glass and a fluidity that only Apple can achieve, it transforms depending on your content or even your context and brings more clarity to navigation and controls.
Sounds like only Apple can do, right? Only Apple can do. So basically, it's not a real glass. They're just mimicking the glass effect so that it's a bit translucent. It can magnify. I don't know why. Yeah. So in other words, it's a user experience feature. If you understand that, type in a 1 in the chat. Oh. And they took 4 minutes just to tell you that, oh, we got a new feature or a new, I don't know, new outlook, output. What do you call it? Display. Wow, a bit disappointing, right? Along the way, you can sense whether I'm more excited or more disappointed. Yes. Yeah. So when this thing came out, I was like, oh, okay, you took 4 minutes out of the 1 hour to talk about this feature, and then this feature is just this kind of features. Huh? That's it? No. And then this is like near the start of the whole presentation, so it was like quite disappointing. Yeah. So for maybe it's just me, right? I can't say for all Apple users out there, but for me, I'm more of a, I wouldn't say practical, but I'm more of a function person, right? You give me a functional stuff, you give me a better AI intelligence stuff or those things, right? I'm more appreciative than you give me this kind of appearance stuff. So it's more towards the UX, right? The user experience side of things, right? So that is not fanciful. It's kind of like a bad start to me, right? But I think some of the things that excited me along the way is like them sharing about their visual intelligence. Sounds amazing. Let's find out what this is about.
Visual intelligence makes it faster to do more with the content on your iPhone screen. And it works automatically with any app. Say I open a social media app, and I see this great jacket. I want to know where I can get something like this. I can find out with visual intelligence, and I can access it with a familiar gesture by pressing the same buttons I use to take a screenshot. Now at the top, I have screenshot controls like mark up and share. At the bottom, I have visual intelligence tools like this image search button in the bottom. I can tap here to find similar images on Google or other apps I use frequently. Thanks to
What do you all feel? What does it look like? Kun Kun say trash. Amazon also got. Right. Google also got, Google also have their Google Lens, right? So when this came out, I was like, oh, if you can see properly, or if I can zoom in even further, okay, it's still linking back to Google lah. So yeah. So I guess this is like their way of saying that we have our own Google Lens. We got our own Google Lens. Right, another disappointment. Okay, but I think this one is where I think it captured my attention a lot. Right, because throughout the whole session, the whole 1 hour, even though I fast forward it, these are the things that make me think, I question myself, like, why are they mentioning this? Okay, so what am I saying? During the call, during the conference video, right, it was sharing like, oh, developers out there, right, there's some things for you to consider doing, right? And some of the features that they have are like, they have this call translation that happens like real life time, right? So that, let's say right now, if I'm talking to somebody that speaks Tamil, right, I can have a live transcription or translation of what they're saying right now, so that I don't have to wait very long, right? So from the demo, it shows that it's quite fast, right? When Google have their Google I/O, they also shared about how their live translation stuff in their Google, what's that thing called? Google Specs or Google Glasses, right? Yeah, it's a bit similar to that. But what I think added a bit of question mark to me was that at the end of that particular segment, they said like, hey, developers, if you're interested, I mean, my own words, developers, if you're interested, we have this call translation API. So if you are not an Apple user, yeah, you can still link with our API to maximize some kind of like benefits, right? So that is number one, right? A call translation API. Briefly talk about API in a short while. But another one they were talking about like on Apple TV, right? And that was where they were sharing some of the features inside. And one of the convenience that they're trying to bring across to Apple users is that, hey, if you're an Apple user, you're an iPhone user, high chance that you are actually a iPad user, right? And if you're an iPad user and an iPhone user, likelihood that you will be using a Mac. And at the same time, because you're going to use all this stuff, right, the chance of you having a Apple TV at home is also high, right? Basically, what they're trying to say is that if you are start using our Apple product, you'll be inside our whole Apple ecosystem. And so, in this particular feature that they want to bring out is that if you have so many Apple products, asking you to sign into all of your different accounts, your subscription stuff, it's going to take ages, right? On your phone, you got Spotify, Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon, not Amazon, what's that thing called? Prime, right? Prime TV. And then after that, if I'm going to port over this onto my computer, if I port over this on my TV, I need to key in 4 times again. So there's so many unnecessary logins. So in this particular feature, they are trying to bring across is that with one Apple ID, you just need to log in 1 time. So that is that. Then at the end of that segment, then they brought out this slide saying that, hey, we have this API for developers who are interested. Okay, basically just want to use my best of my understanding to explain what API for this sense is, right? It's basically a way for different software systems to like link from different softwares. So if I'm Apple, I have access to the Apple, right? I might not have access to, let's say, Spotify's internal kind of like codes, right? So I cannot get the data, I cannot link anything over. Right. A reason why API is there is so that they can make a bridge so that the tools, different systems can like share and talk and then share some of the information across so that things can work. Okay. That is a prelude to what I'm going to share next. The next part is where I think it's more powerful and it's where the focus should be, and why they are doing this is that they want to focus a lot on the shortcuts. They want to focus a lot on the agentic functions. Okay, why don't, as we have here from different sharings previously about how AI have progressed to a stage where, by communicating with one AI, they can communicate with other different things and get the things done, right? So one of the things that was being mentioned in this particular WWDC 2025 was that you can have it to like automate and then search your notes, for example. So one example they were sharing was that if, let's say, you were taking notes in a class, in the notes, right? And then you have a transcript of the session, you record the teachers talking, right? So using the transcript and using the notes that you have, how they can use Apple Intelligence to fill up the blanks that you missed out on, so that this is how they can automate and do it for you. Okay, I believe the focus is not on the glass, not on the what did I share just now? Not on the glass, not on the visuals, but actually it's more on this, right? Because if you think about it, the closest tool that everyone have is our phone, right? And if our phone can do a lot of capable, fantastic stuff right now, right? Imagine if they can become our own AI agent and start to function for you, right? So I think that's where the focus they're trying to do is to get people or get developers to start linking up with more different software, different tools, different apps, so that when the intelligence comes in to operate, right, it is where we can have more use cases. Okay, so one example that was being brought up in here was, not sure if I have the slides. It's on here, right? You can get it to, or I was sharing on this, is that let's say you got a recording and then you have a notes, right? They can help you to summarize some of the pointers and all this not lah. So this is only possible, right? Because the Apple Intelligence or the AI in Apple have access to the recordings, they have access to your text, right? So for them to access this, they need to have linkage, right? And not for for different apps out there, right? There might not be that link. So that's why they are encouraging or like having developers out there to create more of links with, let's say, Spotify, with your different apps out there, right? One day maybe with Telegram or even like Google Buddy, right? This is where they have a lot of shout outs in the different APIs or even on the app intents, right? So this is particular for useful for people who are building their apps and they want to link it up with some AI automation stuff, right? So this is the purpose of this lah. Right, so Kun is not impressed. I am on the fence because I also don't know how all this information that is being shared, it can help to translate to next year's revenue lah. Right, so later also share a little bit on that. Okay, until this point of time, until I share all this stuff, if you are not impressed, give me a 1 in the chat. Ice is not impressed. Kun I already know not impressed. Shilong mentioned that Google is already laughing at the back. Huh? Yeah. So if I can summarize the whole WWDC, right? Let me put it in simple words is that they are basically just sharing about software updates. There's no new hardware, there's new chips, no new phone, no new camera, no new nothing. Everything is all software, right? Then, if everything is software, how is this going to help with the sales, right? Because now let's put on our Apple investors hat, right? If let's say you want to invest in Apple as a business, what are the things that we are looking out for? We're looking at whether this company can continue to sell more products, right? And over here, right, I have some of the pointers that I have, right? They never mention anything about new products. Focus on softwares, a lot of the user experience. Maybe it helps, not so sure. Personally, I don't really play this and it's not extremely important to me, right? Yeah, so can they actually sell, right? Can they actually get people to say, wow, WWDC 2025, wow, all these Apple intelligence features, I want to buy, right? I want to buy a new phone, right? So this is what, as an Apple investor, I would like to see lah, right? So I think it's quite bad, right? But anyway, just recap again, right? For Apple, right? For Apple, like when they share this, like their features, all these updates, right? I was like just wanting to reference to their revenue lah, right? So as you can see, iPhone, Mac, iPads, these are the wearables, and then services is where it's actually increasing over time, right? If you have a glimpse of this, you can see that a big bulk of their money is coming from selling Apple, Mac, iPhone, Mac, iPad, as well as your wearables. So I guess it's your watch as well as your visions. Okay, so these are the physical products are the ones that are like selling and contributing to a lot of their revenue, right? In that sense, right? If all these updates cannot impact people to like the features in the sense that they will buy, then there's a problem lah. For me, I am not an Apple investor. Just a disclaimer, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold. Just trying to share like what this WWDC is a good or bad thing to me. Yeah. I just convert myself to Apple ecosystem for now, and it's not that fantastic. I'm just using the phone and sometimes half broken AirPod Pro Max. Okay, AirPod Max. Sorry. Yeah, so I think that is on that, right? So WWDC 2025, in my quick summary of the whole thing, to conclude, it is not the most fantastic update I have seen, right? There wasn't a lot of new things that really attracts me, but I guess they are preparing themselves to, like I mentioned, is that they want to prepare themselves to have a agent or having Apple Intelligence become the agent of everyone. So that's why for now they focus a lot on the user experience, focus a lot on how they can get developers to work on linking up the different tools, right? And that is for the big picture lah, hopefully. So this is my take on things on WWDC 2025. Okay, if you understand what I'm sharing so far, type in the 1 in the chat. And for those who are tuning in on YouTube, if you can help me to like the click the like button. What am I talking about? Yeah. And also, if you're interested to understand what I'm going to share next, right, which is a company that has like risen their share price in the past 6 days over 200+%, right? And you want to see whether this company has a potential to be in your portfolio, you definitely need to check out the second part of our Wealth Pulse, right? So if you're tuning in on YouTube, we have a link below inside our description that you can claim a 1 month complimentary access to what you're viewing right now, but in the full version in our community in Zoom. Okay, click on that and then you can join us to hear the second segment, which I think is interesting, right? I'll share some of my takes and also, yeah, how I would view this company as well. As we'll be sharing a bit more sensitive information, that's why we decided to cut it off and the live segment right now and then just proceed to the second segment. So thank you so much for everyone that is tuning in. If you can help me follow us for more, because every single week, Tuesdays, we will be doing YouTube live for the first segment on market updates. Thank you so much. I will see you guys next Tuesday.